I remember Sam was telling me yesterday that you were coming up here, and I started getting a little sad because I know how it feels to lose family members, not from the government, but just from senseless violence in Philly and other places. But I was just thinking about one, like you became a vessel to teach this story about the social responsibility, not only of people, but also for the government at large. But I'm really curious as to, like, how do you practice self-care in terms of, like, after this happened, like, what changed for you? How do you move forward when you lose your whole family? And what does it mean in terms of, you know, Lori was talking about a social responsibility, but what I see as I'm thinking about it is the privilege of people not having to deal with these things. How do we talk about this big bubble that people are in, but how do we slash the bubble of privilege that people in America don't have to deal with in terms of terrorism and things like that? But first, I want to know, how do you deal with that self-care?
Thank you. I will not lie if you see a facade, but sometimes I just break down and cry. But I have to be strong for my son, for my nephew, for my niece, for the rest of my family, because now I'm the head of the family. So I have to be strong for them. One thing. The second thing, I'm Muslim, but my faith grew stronger after this accident. I always question why I was sleeping here. My wife was sleeping 6 inches away from me. She's dead. I'm alive. Why? I mean, this is a question I cannot answer, but my faith grew stronger after this death of my wife. So I believe that God has a mission for me, and I take strength of this idea of maybe I want to bring. I came here if I get to change the mind of 10 of you, and these 10 will go out and talk to 5 more, then there'll be a ripple effect. I'm happy with that. I want to tell you something. War sucks. I tried to stay out of Iraq during the whole Iranian-Iraqi war, which lasted from 1980 to 1988. I prolonged my stay in the United States just to stay away from that bloody war, which millions lost their lives, and then back to Kuwait, back 2013. And then the final war in Mosul, after the ISIS invasion of Mosul, which I did not witness because I was out of Mosul. So many people lost their lives during the process of the liberation of the old city, because it's very small, narrow roadway. I mean, the liberation had to be on foot. What happened was an excessive use of force. Before that, if there was a motorcycle with an ISIS, a drone will pinpoint him and shoot him and kills him immediately. What happened? I don't know what happened. But you have one ISIS fighter on top of a building, that building will be hit with a bomb like 200, 300, 400 kilos and brings down the whole thing. Most of the houses, they had dwellers in them, the family members. Nobody paid any respect to those people. So the excessive use of force, I went into Old City about 2 months ago, because I was afraid, not afraid physically, but I was afraid of what I'm going to see. And it was devastated.
Hi, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
My question to you is, what is your take on the American interference with the Middle East right now?
Well, the United States has always interfered in the Middle East. And when they came into Iraq, some say for its oil, some say for controlling of a very important junction in the Middle East. When they came into Iraq, they left in 2016. When they said mission accomplished, mission was not accomplished. They left Iraq in a mess. They dismantled the army. They dismantled every major security force in Iraq. So Iraq was in a chaos for months. The structure of the civil government was dismantled, so we had no government for months. So when they came into Iraq, they came in a different way. They have never invaded a country, but Iraq was invaded. So they have, every country they have some business with, but Iraq, it was different.
All right, just one more question. How does it feel like a person like you who's lost his family, how does it feel like when someone calls you or someone like you a terrorist in this country? How would it feel like for you?
Well, I would be very upset if somebody calls me a terrorist. I'll tell him, well, I was a victim of terrorism. ISIS was a terrorist organization. It came into Iraq. It cost me everything. Then I lost my house. I lost my job because of my injury. We have a building, office building, 4th floor. It was demolished. So I've lost everything. So I've lost more than anybody. So ISIS is not only against Christians, Americans, British, it's against us too.
So when you came to the United States, to Kalamazoo for Western Michigan, you said that people embraced you and they had no difficulties with you at all. But, the same, white people in Michigan could have been that same white guy who put the gun on you in Iraq, but he had no idea who you are. You have a degree, So in regards to labeling you and labeling us in Iraq, I'm sure people think of America as, the evildoer. What's the best way in terms of fighting those labels to not put everyone in that same perspective and have a different opinion? Because, like you said, it helped you not get shot. What could we do to help?
You cannot generalize.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear so many things on the news, and that's why I say don't listen to one news station, because that news station will tell you what the CEOs of that station. Reach out. I mean, you have the internet now. In my time, I had to read newspapers. You have the internet. You have the whole world in front of you. Just look beyond. Don't take the story from one side. Research. And just like when you think every Arab probably is a terrorist, I will think every American wants to invade my country, take my oil, which is not true.
The first thing I wanted to say was, so I lost my father, and if someone had offered me $2,000 for his life, I cannot imagine just how disrespected, and it kind of is dehumanizing. Mm-hmm. And so, I just wanted to kind of apologize for that, and I cannot imagine what that felt like. And then my question to you is, so you said that when you were in the hospital, you just wanted to leave because you said the place you felt safest was your house. And then that was taken away from you, and kind of like your safe place was then just destroyed. Yeah. So kind of just how do you cope with that? Your safe space where you felt comfortable was taken away from you. And
well, my parents' house, we moved in that house in 1975, and I've lived until 1980 when I left to England. And then I returned in 88. We stayed at that house for like 6-7 years. But once you have your own house, it's difficult to move out of it. I mean, it's my parents' house. Now I have no house. I'm renting a house in Erbil, which is north of Mosul. When I go back, I mean, it's my parents' house, but I don't feel it's my house. For some reason, my mom welcomes me because she's the only person now living there. But it's still my house in Erbil. Even though I'm living alone, I have to do my own cooking, I have to do my own laundry, but I feel this is my house. So my house is gone. There's no way I can rebuild it. I have no financial way of building it. So I don't know what to do. Thank you for your apology. You don't have to apologize because it's not your doing.